Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. It's me, Steven. I'm back, as per usual, and we've got John, and we've got Nessie back together. Got all three the dragons finally managed to land on one stream together. It's the first time in a little while. But hi, friends. How you doing?
Good. Missed you. Missed you guys.
Yeah, and it just feels so good to have all of us back together.
It is nice.
It always, I'm sorry, it just doesn't feel right when it's not the three of us. So.
Yeah, we got the band back together, and it's nice. So yeah, rings of power, right? I guess that's what we're going to talk about. Before we get into it, is there anything anybody wants to make sure we bring up? Just give you the opportunity to say something now.
I'm just going to say that, funny enough, like typical me, like my thoughts are so consumed with the fact that we're talking about Lord of the Rings today that I only just realized that coming up after the stream is House of the Dragon tonight, right, as it has been, but I completely have not even been thinking about it today.
Yeah, it's been all Rings of Power today, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I went ahead and because I'd watched all the episodes as of yesterday. I was like, I still want to be in Middle Earth for a little while. I'm not quite ready to leave yet, so I watched all three of the Hobbit movies today.
Oh.
You really wanted to be in Middle Earth. Sorry.
I mean, there are worse. I mean, Hobbit movies, okay, but still, there are worse ways to spend your Sunday.
Well, I mean.
But you didn't watch all four Hobbit movies.
No, I did not watch all four movies. No, I'm saving that for a special treat.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay. Well, again, Nessie, it's nice to have you back. It has been a minute. I know you've been busy between work and like being in halfway across the country. Sometimes it is what it is. John, I know you've got a week you're going to miss coming up next month sometime, and but we also have discussed and have decided on our Halloween stream. So, I'm just saying, we'll say it now if it's.
Go ahead.
I mean, we're gonna do the Addams Family, which is I can't wait.
But when I suggested that, and then I cursed myself because does that mean that I have to try and dress up like Uncle Fester?
Maybe.
You can be whoever you wish.
Look, I'm doing Wednesday. I'm just saying.
I already knew you would.
Of course you did. Like, was there ever a doubt?
Never a doubt. I didn't even look at Wednesday Addams' costumes. So
right.
I did try to get Rock to do a double cosplay with me and go as Gomez and Morticia.
That'd be awesome too, though.
Yeah, but he's
I'm gonna go to Spirit Halloween and
no. I'm very excited because I think it was last year we did a watch party for the Addams Family, and then this year, of course, I'm gonna get all nerdy about my physical media. The 4K remastered edition came out, which I actually just picked up the day we were deciding this, and I was like, "Hey, I just picked that up. Let's do Addams Family." So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. When we watched it last year, I just rediscovered how much I love that movie.
Yes, I watched it because I had not watched it before.
Okay, so it's your only time. Okay.
The only time I'd ever watched it.
Really?
Yes, John.
I wasn't aware of that.
We had this discussion, yeah. So I had not watched the.
And now you have, and now
I have.
You don't need to ever watch them again.
There's good parts. Yeah, like I've said ad nauseum that there's issues that I have with the Hobbit movies. I did a very lengthy stream on that, but there's also a lot of things that I enjoy about those movies.
Yeah,
So
they're hit or miss. But you know what? Let's leave that for another time. We've got a whole other Middle Earth thing to talk about,
Mhm.
and that is the Rings of Power. So let's just let's just start with, as we usually do, with sort of our top-down views. We've got half a season. We're going to be talking full spoilers for the whole thing. So if you haven't watched it all, if you're not caught up, please understand you might get spoiled, and if that's important to you, come back and watch this after. It'll live on YouTube forever. Uh, so yeah, top down view. Nessie, it's been a minute since you've been on, so let's start with you. 4 episodes in, where are you at with this show?
4 episodes in, I'm waiting for episode number 5. Is where I am. I wasn't disappointed. The only, well, I don't want to get into issues with anything. But because they were minimal and they didn't really distract me from the rest of the story. I've I've fallen in deep like with several of the characters. I've fallen in love with Harfoots. Uh,
I think that'll be the consensus on.
I
Yeah,
think
but
that, I mean, how can you not? But
there's an asterisk on that. But
okay,
yes, in general. But your top down view is you are deeply in like with this show.
I'm having a good like with this. Yes, very much. Quite enjoying it.
Yeah. How about you, John?
Yeah. So
You're obviously the biggest Lord of the Rings fan amongst the three of us.
and also I think I've probably in our circle, I've probably been the most cynical about this going into it
You were.
because yeah, because well, first the they just announced that they were doing a Lord of the Rings TV series, and so right off the bat, I was like, nope, don't want it, because back then we didn't know what that meant. And then there were various things that came out, rumors that they were taking the show in a direction that didn't feel very Tolkien-esque and all that stuff. And so I've been kind of, going into this fingers crossed that I would at least find it okay. And I've found it much more than okay.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't touch the films, which are my favorite films of all time.
It doesn't need to.
Yeah, no, and I wouldn't expect like that. That wouldn't be my bar, whether it was good or not. So where I am at, I went to the movies. I'm going to rub it in, and I got to see the first 2 episodes on the big screen, and I think that experience really kind of it helped ease me into it because it was going back to the movies for another Tolkien, theatrical experience, and yeah, so I think I'm with Nessie where I'm not yet ready to call it a deep love for the show, but it's a very deep like, and I foresee it developing into love probably before the end of the season, because it's really, really good.
Jess says, "Where's the peanut butter?" Because she is jelly of you getting to go to see it in the theater.
I know. Why do you think I brought it up?
And Cortex says that they find the pacing and editing very weird. I suppose it's worth talking about in a moment, but I'm going to give you my sort of overall overarching. The show overall is very much on an upward trend for me. The first episode, I was like, well, you didn't make me want to stop watching, but what a pain in the ass Galadriel is. And then, you get to episode 2 and then you get to episode 3 and I'm like, okay. And I say that because she's presented as very so rigid in her mindset, and
Mhm.
I don't find her to be very likable at first, but as with many characters who then become my favorite characters, they're not very likable maybe early on, so that they have a place to begin from to grow into one of the best characters. Ahsoka Tano comes to mind. Sansa
Yes.
Stark comes to mind. Neither one of them very likable at the beginning of the story, but they are epic, awesome characters by the end of the story. And I'm totally willing to
Why does she have to be like? I mean, you use the word likable. I'm just kind of.
and we'll okay. We'll come back to that. Overall, I really am enjoying it. You both have mentioned the Harfoots. I love Nori deeply. I will kill either one of you to protect her. She's the best.
Yeah.
Poppy is pretty awesome, also.
Poppy is great.
But that storyline kind of maybe drags down the rest of the story.
No.
I mean, one person's opinion.
I love that storyline.
Okay. Shouldn't you like the main character? You don't have to. Not really. But it doesn't hurt. But I also like
Walter White.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Or Tony Soprano. Yeah. Like, they're not.
Granted, Galadriel is not,
right.
It is not like those characters. But I'm just saying we tend to use. I'm just gonna say it. We tend to say a character should be likable if they're female. I mean, I'm just.
I think you know me well enough to know that I just want my lead to be likable, regardless of gender or race.
I know, but I've been hearing it a lot, and
I understand that, and I don't want to like I don't want to associate myself with the people who are hating on the show for reasons of gender or race or whatever. The thing is, I think maybe she's not supposed to be likable at first and grow on us over the course of the show. Well, and that's already happening.
For me, like, thing is, she is a very determined character with a singular focus, but that's as it should be. She's at this, the character as being presented to us at this point in her life, she is commander of the Northern Armies in a war that she sees as not being finished.
Yeah.
And that everybody else is saying, no, the evil's gone. And guess what? She's right.
Okay, but that doesn't make me want to be friends with her.
Okay. So, again, like, why is that a criteria?
Because I like that in my show. Because I, as a viewer, like that. It's probably one of the reasons I like this show more than I like House of the Dragon right now. Because I like the people on this show. I like Galadriel. I like Poppy. I like Nori. I like Elrond and Durin and his wife, whose name escapes me.
Disa.
Disa.
Right.
Like, I love all of them. They're great. Arondir, like some no-name elf. I'm like, I love this man.
For real, yeah.
And it's because they are likable. I want them to win. And therefore I care about the things that they care about. And when they're threatened with something bad happening to them, I feel more stakes because I like them. Again, I totally recognize that it is very much a me as the lens that I view all media with. But why is Luke Skywalker my guy? Because I like him, because I want to hang out with Luke Skywalker.
I like that.
I don't want to hang out with Episode 1 Galadriel, but Episode 4 Galadriel is like really coming around.
I like that she's complicated.
Yes.
The elephant in the room is that we were all introduced to Galadriel in the character, the screen character of Galadriel by, the Lord of the Rings, and to a small extent also she was in The Hobbit. Peter Jackson's version of Galadriel is what we're basically comparing her to. If I'm not, I mean, it's the elephant in the room.
Right.
Now,
She's not Kate
you have to
Blanchett.
remember
I would
girl
also
is
sorry, go
older,
ahead.
wiser, and has been through, the shit. She has come to the end of her circle. We're seeing the Galadriel that has to get there. She's got a journey to get to that place. I'm looking forward to seeing this journey that she's going to take. Um, she's very interesting. She's complicated. She has layers. Um, and as those layers are being peeled back and peeled back, I think we're going to find someone that it's a full character, not just a one-dimensional character. She was, we're going to see all of those intricacies that we come to expect from this character. So I want to give her time. I want to give her room to grow and breathe. And if she's still she's an edgy Galadriel, okay? She's edgy. And we're not used to that from this ethereal creature.
I'm going to interject there because actually, if you look at the Galadriel that we get in Fellowship of the Ring, particularly the theatrical cut that doesn't include like the gift giving scene, she is very cold and distant for much of that. So
she is withdrawn, is what I like to say. She has finally got to the point where she is able to cut her ties with Middle Earth, and that is the whole thing, where she's able to cut her ties and go to Valinor and to recede and go into the West. That's where she has to get to, and that's what we see, where she's able to transcend her longing, her joy for living, her wanting to stay in Middle Earth. She's gone past that, but right now she's very much wants to be there. She very much wants to be a part of the weave of the fabric of Middle Earth. So I'm really I'm defending this character in a way that I want to see her grow and see how she becomes more than what she is.
I do want to make a couple other notes about the character. For one thing, this is a character who is still in deep mourning. She's haunted by the death of her brother, and I love all that stuff. The way the first episode starts off showing us the bond between them and the way that she still grieves for him. And I was thinking about this today, and I actually like the fact that in the first episode there's that exchange between her and Elrond, and she talks about still feeling the evil inside her. And in my mind, there's two ways to view that. She's talking about her grief and the fact that she can't let go, that there's still work undone. But I also liked that, to my mind, and I don't know whether this is intentional or not, but I like the fact that there's a parallel between what we'll later get with the ring and this sort of obsessive need and connection to it with the evil of Sauron himself, which is still out there, and the fact that she's so tied to that, and she's really the only one who's still like fervently trying to go after him. His evil in of itself is insidious and has a hold on her. And so I like I don't know. I just like the way she's being portrayed, and I think it's completely earned the fact that she is the way she is, because she's not nobody's listening to her. There's a desperation there.
I'm just going to say that the fires of the Noldor are still burning very, very, very bright with this one.
There's some conversation going on in the chat about this character. Some people don't like her for legitimate reasons, for what I feel are legitimate reasons. Some people really love her for what I also feel like are legitimate reasons. And maybe you have some extreme views at either end. You're allowed to not like a character. You really are. No matter who they are, just dislike them for the right reasons, not because That's a woman, or like that is not acceptable.
Right.
But
or the whole
but
they're trying to they're trying to call her a Mary Sue, and
yeah,
I'm like,
she's not.
you can't do that.
No, she's not a Mary
her.
Sue. She clear like she gets.
No.
She's an elf. Elves is a whole race of Mary Sues. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's not more Mary Sue than the next elf, but
I mean, if Legolas and like every other Peter
Legolas
Jackson movie
knows how to defy gravity. But okay, there's a larger point to what I was just saying, though. She is simultaneously, I think, very elvish and very not elvish in the way she presents. She doesn't understand people, but like Jess says, she thinks maybe some of her hardness could be because she's determined to fulfill her oath to her brother, and that does seem very elvish. Yes, it does. But I cannot picture this Galadriel singing "Tra La La Lally" down here in the valley.
I can't picture Peter Jackson's doing that either.
You get what I mean, though. Like she is very harsh and severe, but that may, but again, centuries of trying to hunt down Sauron at the extreme edge of the world. Okay, that would make you a hard person.
And actually, I just want to clarify. I can't picture Tolkien's Galadriel doing that either, because they sing "Tra-la-la-la-lally" in The Hobbit, which the elves that are like a whole different thing in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
versus Lord of the Rings, and especially the Silmarillion.
Yeah. Not sure why she's not a Mary Sue. Okay. All elves are good at everything. So if you want to call her a Mary Sue because she's an elf, okay, I'll give you that even. Because they can do, like, Elrond can stand on a bridge 100 yards away and hear the whispered conversation between Durin and Disa. That's Mary Sue also. So I don't perceive her as being...
Why would she be a Mary Sue? I don't understand.
Well, she obviously succeeds at everything she does. At least eventually.
It's been some of the commentary.
But that's just elves, because that's how Tolkien made his elves.
Tolkien made them.
Because they're
different.
They're barely mortal.
It's also called a protagonist in a lot of storytelling, in which things often go well for them, unless you're telling a Game of Thrones story.
Okay, I see you. You're nitpicking also the action scenes. There's might be some legitimate criticism there of some of the action scenes early on. Some of the cuts were pretty quick, but that her not being able to, or whoever directed it not having the eye to produce an action scene that you liked on screen, doesn't make her a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
I don't like. There's nothing in the story that would prohibit her from having been taught to be a good fighter.
Right.
True.
So,
like, I'd say the only thing that I had a problem with of any of her sequences, and I was, okay, she jumped off the ship to swim back to Middle Earth.
Okay. Mr. Hamilton, I understand you're having problems with it, but I don't want to derail this whole stream to directly counter every point you have that's a problem with this show. I'm enjoying it overall. I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about what I think might be wrong with it. I'm happy to point out things that I think are wrong with it when I come to them, but I really would prefer to spend most of the time talking about the things we're actually enjoying.
Right. Well, that was to the topic that, I mean, of everything. That was the only thing that I had any criticisms on. I like her action sequences. I like her determination as a character. Her self-worth, her ability to stay cool in a crisis. All these things are very admirable. So
I'll second this with Aaron. Like, I remember when Fellowship of the Ring came out, and I heard something on like a radio show or something, people like saying, well, the slow-mo was a bit overdone in the movie, don't you think? And I was like, what are they even talking about? Because every sequence of slow motion in the films like worked dramatically because it's put you like in the mindset of the characters, and it's like you just kind of forgot. The horse scene was weird. It just
Just said best part of the series overall so far. I'm sure. And you know what's funny, Jess? When I saw that scene, I immediately thought of you because Galadriel is a horse girl confirmed.
Yeah, 100%. And after that scene, it's almost like a bit of the walls to start to come down. You know, especially once they arrive at Elros's library. Like, take a girl on a horseback ride to a library. Done deal. Okay.
Yeah, if I thought the horse riding scene was a little odd, it was worth it to get us to the library.
Oh, hold on. Hello, Lady Thistle. It's been too long. Very nice to see you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But,
who didn't love the Hall of Lore? Like, I was really struck by the fact that there was a couple of books, but it was all scrolls, and I'm like, this right here, this gives it like its own unique
depth
flavor, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. Plus, y'all, I mean, we got to see Numenor on screen. Like, that is just freaking amazing.
I was a little bitter when the credits rolled on the second episode when I was sitting in the movie theater because I was like, no, we're just about to get to Numenor. Let me see it on the big screen.
Let me see it. Yeah, I'm so excited to see that. It's so gorgeous, so beautiful. You know, and the way that the city and everything is designed. I just love it.
That's one of the things I'm really enjoying about this show is that Lord of the Rings has permeated the nerd space enough that it touches all of us and you watching in different ways. And there's been crossover and whatnot and memes and whatnot to the point that watching this show makes me think about my friends. There's a horse scene. I thought about Jess. I saw those Numenorian ships and I'm like, I need to know what Kelly has to say about this.
Right? I just wanted to scream, "Squeak, Kelly, I see ships."
And they showed Ent and I was like, oh, hell, this whole show just went down a notch in Helen's estimation, you know?
But then there's a little baby Ent like holding on to the parent, like, what is that, daddy or mommy? So yeah, I'm hoping we get to see more Ents and Ent wives. So.
Ent wives, yes.
Ent wives.
Ent wives, or we'll riot.
Okay. And question: will the Ent wives have boobs?
Why would they?
But why wouldn't they?
They'll have boob armor because that's
okay. They'll have boob armor.
Boob armor. Oh my God, you're fired. Both of you are fired. Okay. I'm doing this show by myself.
Okay.
I one thing I want to say is.
Okay, so.
Okay.
For real.
Sorry, she said she was going to do it by herself.
I do want to say, like, one of the things that I'm having the most fun with on the show is with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit as well. There's a great sense of history to those films, especially like the extended cuts and you know, you get the depth of the world. But Lord of the Rings is a story. You know, in the book, there's definitely stuff that, you know, characters recall, like Elrond will recall something from an earlier age. But with the films, it's very much like the history of those stories is about the very end of the Second Age and like the Last Alliance and all that stuff. What's so great about this story is, okay, we didn't get a an adaptation of the Silmarillion and the First Age, but all of that history is like it radiates, and I'm loving that because
like,
there's my love of Lord of the Rings, which I feel is one thing, but Tolkien's deeper lore feels like such a unique thing,
I
and
believe the term for that is legendarium.
yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say that the Middle Earth that we're given in this series seems very lived in.
Well,
You
it's
know,
like whatever is happening in the story is like the melody of a song, but all that other history feels like it's the harmonies in the background, you know, adding flavor and texture to that melodic a story that's going on.
Yeah, I
excited to see
wrote.
all these places.
Well, I
Yeah.
wrote in the Slack, it may have been on Twitter that I wrote it, where I was like just so excited to be hearing lines like Galadriel of the Noldor of the House of Finarfin while she's standing in Numenor. Like, this is stuff that I never thought I'd get to see on screen. And
Dude, I've got chills. I got chills. Like, we see Khazad-dûm before it got overrun. It's in its height. It's beautiful. I never thought I would say that about a dwarven city because it's such a contrast to like the beauty of say Rivendell or Linden or even Valinor.
but it's so like it fills me with such nerves knowing that there's all this life and vibrancy in Khazad-dûm, but Durin's Bane is just waiting underneath.
Stop. Don't ruin it for me yet. There's a tree. Durin is growing a tree that his friend gave him underground in Khazad-dûm.
And everybody said it would never work, but it's like he made it work.
Yeah. I did. I like Aaron. I cried.
I don't know if I cried, but
I shed some tear.
But like seeing Khazad-dûm, and also seeing God, come on, brain.
The Southland.
No, the Numenor.
Oh God, yeah.
Like when we saw the port and they came in, and you had the sea, the way it's built up, the sides of the hills, and it's got that beautiful protected harbor, and I'm just like, oh my God, I love this so much. Like I literally want to steal that and put it in somewhere in my D&D game world because it's such a beautiful location.
So gorgeous.
Like how inspiring.
What's great is that when you go into Numenor, you can see all the sort of the things that resemble what we'll get with Gondor, and in the kingdoms of men, but also there's a quality to Numenor that is never recaptured. It feels like I think Bear McCreary compared it to like Babylon. And within the city, I also get like Rome vibes, a cleaner Rome.
Oh yeah.
And speaking of Bear McCreary, like the music for Numenor, he wanted it to feel, very different from other cultures that we've seen, in Lord of the Rings, so that, well, I won't spoil for people who haven't read Tolkien's Legendarium, but there's a reason why that type of, that footprint will not be in the story by the time of Lord of the Rings.
I love how they've just taken and embraced the aspect of how they are at one part of the sea. Their culture is like surrounded by the sea. It's a part of their lives. It's part of their city, with the canals and everything, and how it's just as big a part of the sea is as big a part of their lives as it is, because what we see when they've come and founded Gondor, like they're not that sea culture anymore. This is
there's a good reason for that.
There's a good reason they might have.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
But-
We might have seen some foreshadowing for that.
We might have seen some, say, prophecy, prophetic dreams about this thing. Or nasty Palantir vision.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Nessie just said it, by the way. Palantir?
Yeah, the Palantir.
Palantir.
I'm Southern. It's Palantir.
Funny enough, the Queen Regent's father, I guess ostensibly the king of Numenor, his name is Tyr Palantir. Or is it Tar Palantir?
Tar Palantir.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Tar. He must have been the last Tar.
Yeah.
Oh, did anybody boo when the Chancellor, whatever, Farazan showed up? Just like, did anybody just boo that name? Boo.
No, I'm sorry. I guess I missed it. Okay.
He's the beard guy.
No, he's cool, man.
Okay.
Is he?
Is he?
I know he's not cool eventually, but like he's cool. Ain't nothing wrong with him.
Yeah, but he's doing some shady things, like.
No way, but he's like a politician, like that.
Yeah, like he's making himself look good by like he's very chummy with the guy who was starting up the quote unquote rabble. Yeah, and
that's
and
his son, isn't it? Isn't that his son?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, and by the way, like his son though can just get out of here.
Yeah.
I think we're thinking about the same person as the guy who had the brooch stolen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that's not the son.
That's not his son. Okay.
No, his son is younger.
His son is the one that was hitting on Eyrie.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gross. Go away. Get away from her. She just wants to go to school, man. Leave her alone.
Yeah, she just wants to be guilty.
Yeah. Let her live her life.
Before we move away from the Palantir, can I just say that when Galadriel touches it and the vision comes, the way the VFX to transition that scene was like, I saw that and I'm like, that's cool right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not even that hard, I would think, from a VFX standpoint. But the effect was very cool. The way it kind of shattered and it exploded outward. And then, it's like very sort of jerky movements all of a sudden. And then Galadriel seeing the wave coming. Anyway, it's just really, I loved it. Thought it was one of the best CG shots in a TV show I've seen in a minute.
Yeah, and I do want to mention just the show, like overall, is so unbelievably gorgeous. I mean, this is like, I don't think there's any question. This is like the top tier, sort of what's achievable, for a television series, because it does look like a film. And when I saw this in theaters, yes, I'm saying that again. Like there wasn't a second watching it where I was like, oh, I'm watching a TV show on a big screen. It just felt like it was natural that it would be on a theater screen. And I wish that we all could just go watch it every week in a movie theater, because yeah, it just looks incredible. And like to start off with that scene in Valinor, with young Galadriel and her brother Finrod, just and the way it culminates with him walking up the hill and the two trees, and it's just breathtaking. Yeah, you're right, Aaron. It's there's so many shots that you could just pluck from this, and it's like instant computer wallpaper. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
I'll give it that. It is gorgeous to look upon, pretty much all the time. I mean, there are orcs in this show, so maybe, but I wouldn't call the orcs beautiful, but convincing, horrifying. grotesque, which is exactly what they're supposed to be. Like, it all works. It all works.
And I love what they're not. And I'm sort of sidetracking, not just talking about the look of the orcs, but the orcs as a story point. I love what they're doing because, yeah, we heard in the movies that the orcs were made from elves, but I feel like we're really getting that as a story point in this, and I have theories about the character of Adar, and like who he is, and it sort of his relationship to the orcs. They call him father. Like, he looks like, almost you could theorize about at least some of the orcs like coming from him,
Yeah.
in the sense, because that's how orcs were made. And I just like that we're getting this as a story point, this idea of orcs as corrupted elves.
Well,
And we even see like the elven, the wooden elven armor on the orc that dies, and they remove it after he dies. So that was one of the soldiers that had been there over, the couple 100 years or however much it had been. And I love that. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it was also so telling that in that moment they really gave us a pretty tight shot on Adar's face to see the grief he was experiencing in that moment, which is, it's not something we're used to seeing. We're not used to sort of sympathizing with orcs at all.
Yeah.
And
right.
And maybe we should, again, that's a whole other question. Are the orcs inherently evil? And that's a bigger question than we're going to try to tackle today.
Right.
Tune in next week where we will solve the question of whether or not orcs are inherently evil.
But side note, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Joseph Mowley, or however you pronounce it, who was also in Game of Thrones as Uncle Benjen. He's freaking great. I love him, and I'm looking forward to what else we get from that character, because he's been in it very little so far, but he's incredibly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but they've been saying his name for a little while now, so now we
episode 3 was called Adar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even the earlier episode where they're taken to Adar, Adar was mentioned a few times, and it's like, who is this guy? Who is this Adar of which you speak?
Yes, and they hint that he's one of many possible contenders in the story for Sauron, which he's clearly not.
No,
he's not Sauron.
I think he's out.
Here's the thing. Is Halbrand Sauron?
If you ask some people, they will tell you. I guarantee it. Yes.
That's not what That's not the question I asked. But you're right. The Meteor Man could be Sauron. Adar could be Sauron.
I hate that people are calling him Meteor Man.
What do we call it? What do you call him?
The Stranger.
The Stranger.
The Stranger is one of the 7 gods from George R.R. Martin's world, so he's Meteor Man to me.
He's a friend now. That's who he is. He's a friend.
He is a friend and pack animal.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm actually, and some people have speculated that actually they're all red herrings, and either we haven't yet been introduced to Sauron within the show, or some even think that he's already like in Linden or Region, like behind the scenes, and we just haven't seen him yet.
Theoretically possible.
I do hope the
Probably
stranger isn't Sauron. I know that's a possibility, or that he's some kind of malevolent force, but I'm just so already invested in the relationship between him and Nori. Like, I just don't want the story to break my heart like that.
I don't. I'm not buying into the. I'm not buying into the Halbrand. Nope. I don't think so.
I do think that there's a possibility that now this wouldn't strictly be in accordance with canon, because I think in Tolkien, in the actual Legendarium, it's a Numenorian king that becomes the Witch King. But it would be an interesting spin if Halbrand ended up becoming the Witch King.
Okay, I could see that. One of the 9.
Maybe.
Yeah, I kind of love the Stranger is Tom Bombadil theory. I don't think it's true. I actually think the Stranger, or Meteor Man, or whatever I'm calling him at this moment, is one of the Blue Wizards. That's where I'm currently sort of like leaning,
I think I heard Helen throw out a theory, which I fear could be a possibility, just because of the whole fire thing. We immediately jumped to Sauron, but what if he's actually a Balrog?
Yeah, I've heard that theory as well. The Stranger, so Aaron says that the Stranger is very Gandalf coded, and you're right, but I think that's a red herring.
Yeah, I do not think
it's the stars. And I was watching Robert in Deep Geek stream a few days ago, and there was this topic of conversation came up, and Robert said that to him that constellation looked like Gemini, which, okay, maybe it did. I have not re-looked at it myself to confirm or deny it, but if it is in fact Gemini, there were 2 blue wizards. He could be looking for his other half, so to speak.
Well, and at the end of the day, I just don't know, and I'm perfectly content with that right now, because I kind of like the fact that one episode I'll be like, oh crap, he's actually someone evil, and then the next episode I'm like, no, I think he's a wizard. And so I keep like jumping back and forth in my certainty.
I like that there's enough information that you can really speculate, but not enough information from the show to really have an answer. For a lot of characters, like, we know what's going to happen with Isildur. We know, at least towards the end. And but when you can't even be sure who is who, that just leaves the door open for a lot of speculation. And again, I guess the 2 big questions are like, who is the Stranger / Meteor Man, and who is Sauron? And some people think it's the same. I really don't think it's Sauron. It could be someone who works for Sauron, as you said, John. Could be a Balrog or some other kind of fallen Maiar. But
yeah, I'm still inclined to think that, and I know, like Kate mentioned, about how the Astari or the wizards arrive, and in Tolkien's Legendary, but this isn't that. The show is going to make its own sort of dramatic choices. I feel like I lean towards he is actually one of the wizards, but
I'm going with wizard.
But I also have doubts. So we'll see.
I'm pretty. I'm almost convinced that it's not Gandalf. I'm almost convinced that it's not.
I'm almost convinced too. I think it would be
it's great that he fell in with the proto hobbits. I'm like, that ties there.
And I
I'm
also
like,
wouldn't be upset if it did turn out to be Gandalf, because I know I'd be the first one to be like, I can't picture anybody but Ian McKellen as Gandalf, but this guy really does have a Gandalf aura about him. So I wouldn't be upset if they went that way, but
Yeah.
I think it's just as likely that he's, as you said, Stephen, one of the blue wizards, maybe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was not the first person to come up with it. Actually, my initial reaction was Radagast, but I've since come on to Blue Wizard. I'm on the Blue Wizard train.
Yeah, I'm team. I think I'm team wizard for sure, and I would be happy either way. I think it's one of the Astari.
Could be.
I feel like it is.
Doesn't come that they know of, Kate. This is all based on accounts,
and here's the thing,
written by the elves, and
this is actually pretty solidly not an adaptation of the Silmarillion as well. Like, they're actually not allowed to adapt things from the Silmarillion. They're allowed to adapt things from the appendices of Lord of the Rings, and to make inferences, and to...
It's like 30 pages of stuff.
Yeah. So...
And it's an appendix.
But they are allowed to make shit up, provided it does not break the canon, the existing canon. Mm-hmm. If there's no mention of Gandalf in the Second Age, but it doesn't say Gandalf came to Middle Earth in the Third Age, you can have Gandalf in the Second Age. He's in Lord of the Rings. It's not breaking existing canon. So, but
and at this particular time, he's not Gandalf.
Right. He would be like Grandier or something.
He's a Maiar with a whole other identity and name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they could work around it. I know a lot of people are like, no, this is absolute. You can't have Gandalf in the story, but I'd be fine with it. I think they could work around any technicalities of, he comes here, he plays a role, but people don't quite know who he is. He leaves Middle Earth for a time. Then he returns in the Third Age, maybe.
Right.
Yeah, right there. But anyway, but who knows if he's...
Yeah, nobody's saying he's going to hang out forever.
But who knows if that's the case or not? We'll see.
We'll see. But it is fun. I will say it has been fun to speculate and hear other people's speculation, and the fact that who is the stranger, and there's 5 different legitimately interesting theories, and then who is Sauron, and there's 5 different legitimately interesting theories. That's good. That's good for the show at this point.
Yeah, theory crafting is people talking about it and getting involved in it and immersing themselves in it. That's great. They're connecting with the show,
Peter Griffin, I get what you're saying. Balrogs don't have wings. Fun fact.
Well, I wouldn't be sure about that, because he certainly has, the Balrog certainly has wings in the Peter Jackson's films.
Yeah, but Peter Jackson is wrong when he does that. Okay. Anyway.
Okay. I'm just saying that John Howe is the conceptual artist of this, and his Balrog has wings.
Okay. Well, then he's also wrong.
Maybe it's Schmaug in disguise.
It's fiction, Stephen.
It's supposed to be unrealistic.
I mean, he fell and made a circle. It's obviously Schmaug. I mean, affinity with fire, it all makes sense. Wings makes all make sense.
Yes, Bernie, we will stop fighting about Balrog wings. Okay, so you know what? Maybe
fight about
do a mid-roll now.
Have you worn wigs? Will you? Well, sorry. Going off into a
the John lives on.
Lives on.
An Easter egg. thing.
Should we just go ahead and do the mid-roll? We're pretty close to an hour
Oh
in.
my God, we've already been talking for
Yeah.
nearly an hour. Geez, we've just been bullshitting mostly.
John,
We've had some friendly discussion.
That is our MO. If you think Balrogs are fiction, be careful digging. Right. That's why they've got that number, call before digging.
Mm-hmm. You might
That's where
find
the
Balrogs.
are at. That's where the Balrogs are at. Anyway, yeah, let's do the mid-roll. Okay? So, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here live. We've still got about an hour of show left, but this is our commercial break, if you will. Please remember to hit the thumbs up, the like button. It helps spread, the show and the stream to other people. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. If you would like to join our online community, you just need to send me an email at we3dragons@gmail.com, and I will add you to our Slack group where we have, it's just a private social media server where we post memes and thirsty pictures of celebrities and daily Wordle scores and what else? Talk about D&D, and there's channels for Lord of the Rings content and Song of Ice and Fire content, and yeah. So if you want to be a part of that, just send me an email, we3dragons@gmail.com.
Do it. It's much better than Twitter.
It is much better than Twitter.
That's like a very low bar, John.
Also, literally, make sure I shout out our patrons. And I said I was going to do it, and I've started doing it. So, starting today, our Patreon is no longer the Record of Heroes, but these are legendary dragons. Our legendary dragons at the very top are the Great Wyrms, Ridiculous Ed Tollett, and Lord John Bronsteen the Wise. And they are, of course, the greatest of the legendary dragons. But just below them are the elder dragons, including the Cloaked One of the Underworld, Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, Reflective Rambling, Arch-Maester Emma, Kate, Mistress of the House of Books, Jared Kozal, Doctor of Dragons,
Who's that?
Lady Maura Lee of Starfall, and Lady Rita, the Unbound. And just because it's been a little while and everything's changed, our dragon tier, these are legendary dragons, but they're not Great Wyrms, they're not Elder Dragons, but they are still dragons. Are Sir Julie Beth of Tarth, Sir Kelly, the Jaded Redhead, Sir Blue Lemon, Sir Emily of the Eyrie, Sir William, the Tindalos Traveler, and Sir Guilty, the Undertaker. I'm probably going to shake up all these names to make them sound more dragony. But yeah, thank you, patrons. We love you guys so much. And okay, so what's coming up in the future? There's a couple of things that we will want to talk about. Andor is coming out soon, right?
Yep.
There's a chance we'll be talking about House of the Dragon. Nessie, you probably want to be there for that.
I'll be there. Yeah.
So I'm not sure what to do about next week, but maybe 2 weeks from now, we'll do some Hot D, House of the Dragon. John hates it when we abbreviate things. So look, I've made it this far and haven't called this show anything other than Rings of Power. So, take your victory where you can get it, bud. But so I'm not sure what we're going to do. Actually, I have an idea of something I want to do. It would be a new series of one-on-ones with me and someone. I'm in talks with someone right now to be a guest next week for that. I've not gotten them to commit yet. So if I can't make it work this coming weekend, John will just pick a movie to talk about, just something. some random old sci-fi movie, and then, but if so, hopefully I will get this person to agree, or their schedule line up, and we'll see what that is. I am tripping over my words. What else? What else do we need to talk about? Here be fun.
Well, we're obviously going to finish the rest of this series.
Should we talk about Here Be Con?
Ooh, Here Be Con.
Is there anything to talk about?
I wish.
We need a committee.
If anybody wants to do Here Be Con, let me know. I want to. It's been too long. My friends in a minute. I'm really jealous because several of my friends were at the Ren Fair together.
Boo. Yay.
Like over the last couple of days, if you follow certain people on Twitter, you've seen the pictures of them, and I'm just like, like, I play a lot of D&D, but one of my whole D&D crews was there together. Like the four players were together. I'm the dungeon master for that particular crew, and I was not there. But I'm just like, I'm both extremely happy for you and also like exceedingly jealous that I'm not there.
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe somewhere around Chicago.
That would be cool. Aaron, you live in Chicago. Make it happen.
The capital of the unofficial capital of the Middle Clump.
Yes, the unofficial capital of the Middle Clump. I like that.
And a lot of my friends live within a reasonable distance from there. So
yeah,
a lot of my friends do. It's clumping up.
So yeah, I would love to do something like that. Just floating that idea out into the universe. I think that's a good mid-roll, though, right?
Yeah. We still have a lot of content.
Yeah, like
there's
a lot
areas we haven't even talked about.
We're not going to touch everything. We're going to talk for 2 hours about the stuff that's most important to us specifically. Paul says, "Let's do it for Here Beach Con or Here Be Con." Get back. We'll talk. We'll talk, Aaron. We'll talk.
Yeah.
If you join our Slack group, you can be part of that conversation. We have a conventional wisdom channel where we will discuss this. All right. Okay, but yeah, back to Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, also known as Lauterop, or if you're Jolie, she pronounces it Lauterop, which I think is fantastic. Also, I have also kind of been jokingly calling it Lord of the Rings, the Rings.
Are we wasting time with this?
I got it out of my system, John. I got it out of my system. Let's talk about the show. Y'all
There's a
throw the
love
card on
story.
a map.
Let's talk about that.
Right.
There is a love story in this show.
There is. Do you want to talk about Arondir and Theo's mom, whose name is escaping me at the moment?
Yes. Let's talk about Arundel and
Bronwyn.
Bronwyn. Oh yes. Bronwyn. Great.
Who, like, she is fierce.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the whole sequence in episode 2 when, you know, she's in the house with, you know, with the orc and her and her son, and the way she slams that orc head down on the table. It's like, yeah.
I have a question, actually. Now that we're mentioning that specific, like you're mentioning the orc, and I'm thinking about Theo.
Yeah.
Did this show have to shut down production for COVID for a long time and then come back? Because I feel like between episode 3 and 4, that kid grew like 6 inches.
I don't know if they had to shut down at all, but I know that New Zealand at the time that they were filming was one of the few places where they weren't shutting down for COVID, because they were, for the longest time, they weren't having any cases just because of their protocols. And New Zealand was like the best place to shoot stuff for that reason. So I don't know. I didn't notice anything, to be honest, but
I'm just saying, to me, like, he was shorter than his mom by like maybe 3 inches, and then he was taller than her by like 3 inches.
Yeah. There was a bit
And
of
it happens. You can't. He's a young guy. He had a growth spurt or something, and it might just be like he shot scenes early, and then he shot scenes later in the production process.
Or reshot scenes.
And it could even be like the way the camera is placed in the angle, but it looked to me, I'm like, that kid he went from kid to like young adult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a big old mystery around him too, but yeah. Like now I hate that bartender. the old guy with the...
Well, I knew something was up with him because they did show him in the Comic-Con trailer, like, doing his whole, have you heard of him, lad? Have you heard of Sauron? I'm like,
yeah, it's good. He's good delivery.
He's a shady character.
Yeah.
I knew that. So,
yeah, that's right, Kate. Sketchy AF.
Waldrag? What a name. Anybody whose name ends in drag? No. Like, that's a dead giveaway. Your parents knew you were going to be evil when you were born.
I mean, still better than, than what Wormtongue ended up with. I mean, you just can't ask for a worse name.
There are worse.
Yeah, his mom really hated him.
No, and it's interesting because they sort of introduce, nobody in the town aside from Bronwyn was being friendly towards the elves, but like he was at least the guy who was trying to keep things civil.
He didn't want any trouble.
So of course he's the guy who's
the guy who's got the artifact under his floorboards. Okay, he's got the evil thing there. No trouble, sir. No trouble at all.
I actually think this is very cool. Kartik says his name means God of War. That's cool. My name, Stephen, means crowned one. John, what does John mean?
Impatient.
Does it?
Right now.
Oh. Nessie means a monster that lives at the bottom of a lake. Right?
Well, that's my nickname, yes. My actual name means that cool chick you like to hang out with and talk to.
See, okay. Now your parents knew who you were going to be as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they named me well.
And
apparently, John, your parents also knew because they named you Impatient.
Yeah. Yeah, we just have to run through these actors while we're talking.
Hold on. Mom's dropping by to say hello. She's watching football as she do on Sundays during football season. But yesterday was her birthday. Everybody tell my mother happy birthday.
Happy birthday again.
Or you're a bad friend to me.
Yep.
And I will take it personally if you don't tell my mother happy birthday.
Well, now I regret saying it.
Oh. See, that's why you shouldn't interrupt. And oh, dang.
Oh,
that's
my
tough,
God.
Man. That's tough. Okay. He does say kidding, but it's too late. You already made the joke. All right.
Yeah. So
sorry, I'm just thinking we were doing a watch party a couple of weeks ago of Robin Hood Men in Tights, and I'm just thinking about the part where Patrick Stewart comes in and says, "All the toilets in the kingdom shall be named John."
Yeah. So if Patrick Stewart says it, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, legit.
All right, actors. Ismael Cruz Cordova plays Arondir, and I knew, I was excited about this before the show when he was announced because he had a part in a movie that I really liked called Mary Queen of Scots that came out in 2018, and he was fantastic in that. And so I knew he was going to be great here, but it's a very quiet performance. So much of it comes from the eyes, and because he's not a very he's not a conversationalist.
Elves really are portrayed that way.
Dude cried when he was cutting down a tree. Okay, cried cutting down a tree. I'm good with that. That's emotional range.
Yeah, that was great. And the fact that he decides to go ahead with that just so he can get a glimpse of, of the
The tree
terrain.
line.
And um, yeah, that
And for those
was
people who are
just
saying it doesn't
heartbreaking.
feel like Lord of the Rings, I'm like, there was an elf crying about cutting down a tree. That is the most Tolkien thing that
Mhm.
ever existed.
And that little quiet scene that he has with Bronwyn when they're finally at the watchtower, where there's just small touch, that hand, that finger touch. I'm like, oh, that's
I
sexy.
Well, I love the portrayal of their relationship because it's not like they didn't try and like cram in the
Yeah.
development of this love story. When their story starts, it's clear that they
They're
have been in
comfortable.
love. They haven't, you know, they haven't verbalized it,
Mhm.
but it's clear that that's the case. And I love it. And then you throw in Bear McCreary's beautiful music, and
Mhm.
it works beautifully. Which and speaking of which, like you guys had to know that I was going to be a hard sell for anybody other than Howard Shore doing the score for this. But I also love Bear McCreary. He is a brilliant composer, and the music for the show is stunning. Uh,
Mhm.
Yeah,
like it's as
very beautiful.
it's done very much in the style of, well, it's done in Bear McCreary's style, but it's definitely paying homage to Howard Shore in the sort of style of music itself, and the fact that it's very much with leitmotifs and traditional orchestration and a lot of the stuff that Howard Shore did for the films, is present here. And it's just the kind of score I was waiting for because I love film and television music that, just is unabashedly like, just, yes, we're going to throw themes at you. We're not going to try and do the whole, the best score is the score you don't notice. No, I don't want
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
I want the music to be a character. And
I
it's
think
so
sometimes you want the music to go into the background the same way you want not every character needs to be front and center. But I also agree, like there is a shot in one of my favorite movies ever where a young man is standing on a desert planet staring at two setting
Mhm.
suns. And okay, yeah, he's there, but the main character in that scene is the
Mhm.
music.
Yeah.
Um, and then other time, and it keeps popping up throughout that show. But a lot of times, it's just in the background. It's just heightening what's happening with the other characters. And I think they're doing a really great job in having a similar approach to the music in this show. It's very noticeable and very even bombastic sometimes when it needs to be, and then it's very subtle and
Mhm. It doesn't take.
whimsical.
well,
Yeah.
and kind of along the lines of what you were just talking about, how sometimes you don't even notice it because, well, sometimes you are caught up in the drama, but then it'll, in the best way, it'll then push itself like right in front of your face. Like a great example in the last episode was when uh, Theo, Arondir, and Bronwyn are running from the orcs.
Mhm.
And there's so
Mm-hmm.
much
Yeah.
drama, and you're caught up in that. And then the sun rises, and then it goes to Khazad-dûm with Disa, singing
Yeah,
Mhm.
or she's
to
singing
the
to the
rocks.
mountain. Oh,
And it's so
Oh,
brilliant.
mm.
I got chills again.
Yeah, I got them down my arms and legs right now. Like that to me, I mean, it's just a woman singing. If we're honest, it's just a woman singing. But like the way it made me feel like I was experiencing dwarven culture in a way that I never had before. And as
Mhm.
somebody who like as a lifelong Dungeons and Dragons player, lifelong dungeon master who has built my own game world that people play in. A lot of people play in.
Mhm.
Nessie plays in that game world.
Mhm.
Several other people in the chat right now play in that game world. To see something like a dwarven woman singing to the mountain for the safety of other dwarves who are trapped in a in a cave in. That is just it is so beautiful to experience that. I loved that in a way that I probably can't really fully articulate.
Yeah, it's just we haven't really gotten a lot from the dwarven culture, just a few characters, but just going into we're going into their home. You know,
Hmm.
we're seeing this couple in their home with their two little kids running around in the background causing chaos, and it's so beautiful and it's so sweet, and it's poignant, and it's just these lives of these two people, just being part of their culture, just
Well, there's a thing that we haven't gotten to see this before because we did get a bit um, of the Lonely Mountain at its height in the prologue of
Mhm,
An Unexpected Journey, but that's just very quick. It's a prologue. It's just showing
mhm,
us some quick flashes of stuff. This is the
mhm.
first time we're getting to actually see, life
Life.
in a prosperous, dwarven city, and it's so great to see. And I love seeing that home life of their two kids with the you know stone
The
heads on.
head, the two helmets just bang. I'm like, I could see kids doing this. I've had kids that did this. Just two little small.
And I kind of think it's hilarious that we haven't actually seen the kids. Like,
No, no,
we haven't
no.
seen their faces. It's just like we've heard them in the background making noise. We've seen them with the big giant heads on.
Yeah.
I just find that funny. Um,
Oh, and
Sorry. Yeah, I
yeah.
don't. What was it? Rat tail soup or something like that? Grub.
I don't know, but it needs to sit a bit before you it's
Right.
served.
um, I'm glad we're talking now about the dwarves because Durin and Disa are just,
Yeah.
I think somebody said relationship goals,
They
Yeah. Where was it?
are.
Where was
they're
it?
adorable.
Right there. Yeah. During is relationship life goals. You're not wrong. Um, you
And
really are great.
the friendship,
Yeah.
between Elrond and Doran.
And
One of my
and the growing friendship between Elrond and Disa.
Disa,
Like
yeah.
like she had her man's back. Respect. Like he's
Hmm.
over here doing this thing. It needs to be kept quiet. And she's like, no, I'm going to do everything I can to take him off the trail.
Hmm.
Obviously, he eavesdrops on them from a football field away later,
Hmm.
and he uses his Mary Sue elf powers to hear that conversation. But like even later on, she's like, I really am sorry I lied to you. And I also really loved his response of, you were faithful to my friend.
Yeah.
Um,
it's beautiful, and one of my favorite moments from the show has been in the second episode when Durin is escorting Elrond out, and just when he, you know, just comes out with, no, you don't get to come back after, 20
After 20
years, and
years.
maybe nothing for an elf, but I've lived a
mhm.
whole life. It's great because just it's so emotionally raw, and I loved seeing that too, from we envision dwarves as, so, oh, these are these tough, almost
Stoic.
stereotypically manly type,
Yeah,
characters, and to see the fact that he's really hurt,
Yeah.
and that's how much he cared about his friendship with Elrond, and he felt injured by the fact that he just basically never came back, and
right.
He
and
never
then we find
called.
out that he's been growing the tree, and as Disa says, tends it like it's one of our own, y- you know
And
and that's just so beautiful, and yeah.
I love the conversation that Elrond and Durin have, where Elrond talks about his father, you know, during the fourth is sitting there in the shadow of, during the third, they've got, you know, huge shoes to fill. Huge, huge. Like, what did your dad do? Oh, he built this wonderful place. Oh, what did your dad do? He saved the world. Um, you know, and then he flew off, and I never got to
And
see
yeah,
him.
now he's sailing across the sky.
Well, he said that's the evening star. You see that every night. That's my dad. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
How do you live up to that? My
how do you
dad
live up to that?
lives in the sky and carries a star with him.
How do
Which
you,
I love because, like, when you're reading about the character of Arendelle in the Silmarillion, uh, that's something that Tolkien was able to put in there, because it's like the Silmarillion is like a bunch of short legends, each section of it, and that's a concept that you can put in that. But to hear, in this dramatic storytelling of Elrond actually saying, "No, my dad is literally up in the sky, as he's a
that's
star."
my. I can see it. I can see the spot every night. I can't.
Yeah, it's just so great to get stuff like that. As a Tolkien fan, it makes me so positively geeky.
Episode 4 had a lot of really great relationship stuff in it.
Yeah.
Like when Durin, following on from the scene, Elrond says basically, at this point, I would love to hear anything from my father, anything at all.
I wish I could talk to my dad.
Durin really takes that to heart and goes to see his dad. And I really enjoyed that conversation between them. And the dwarven crown, I'm like, my God, that thing is awesome. Big, chunky, like that's a dwarf's crown right there.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
No, and it was great because I think we're so used to, whether it's from personal experience or just storytelling, that we become accustomed to. You expect that maybe the dad's still gonna be angry and like sort of knock down his son's attempt at making peace, but no, he he comes back to him with an open heart and says, there's no need to ask forgiveness for anything. I'm here for you. I'll always be here for you. And it's so great to see a father-son relationship like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It really is nice.
Really
it's obviously not without its flaws.
Yeah,
as all relationships are, but there does seem to be genuine care. Like down to the way he's screaming in his house about never talk to the old goat again. Like great acting by the actor playing Durin. It was, you could feel his anger and his rage, but that always is with it's his dad. It's growing out of that complicated relationship he has, where he wants to do the thing and they don't agree, but ultimately there is a deep care between them, and there was a lot of that going on in this episode of like trying to understand someone else. Or I say this episode 4, I had a lot of that. The way Galadriel had to really come to understand the Queen Regent,
yes,
in order to get what she actually wanted. The way Arondir kind of is coming to terms with his feelings for the people, the humans that are left behind, specifically Bronwyn and probably Theo. But yeah, it's easy when you're doing like epic fantasy to have the characters get lost in the plot. The things that are happening in the world are kind of sweeping aside every other thing of importance. But there are still they're not all humans, but we'll call them human moments between a lot of these characters. Be they elves or humans or Harfoots or dwarves or even orcs. Again, I go back to that scene with Adar and the dying orc, and I loved that so much.
Yeah. I will say ARS.
Yes.
I actually think it's pretty welcoming to viewers. I don't
Mhm.
think it needs anything like set up from like the books or anything, because it gives you what you need to know in the. It's got a little prologue, which is actually more about setting up like Galadriel's character and the not just character but also like the themes that are kickstarting the show. And I think it gives you what you need. Just keep in mind that the show is set, an entire age before before the movies.
Thousands of years before.
Yeah. So, and I think in that way, it's actually kind of freeing because it is its own story. So,
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, John. I don't really think you need to know much beyond what's presented to you on screen.
Yeah.
If you're confused,
Sauron bad.
right. If you are confused or unsure about something, it's because the show wants you to be confused or unsure about it right now. They really are sort of layering in their mystery.
Yeah,
we were here
I think sometimes, like if people think they're supposed to know more information than what's being presented, they can assume that they've missed that they're missing something because it is based on this wealth of material. But sometimes it's just because the actual storyteller of the show or movie you're watching doesn't yet want you to know that thing, and it's just the way the story is being told.
Yeah, we don't know who the stranger is either.
Right, we don't.
No, it could be a completely new character. We don't know. But so like I really liked the Harfoots until I got to the part where, oh, if you can't keep up, you're going to get left behind. And when they did the book, the reading of the Left Behind in the third, was that the
Okay, so I have heard
Third episode.
third episode?
Yeah, episode 3. I have heard this critique from several people. I do not have the same problem with it, I think, that a lot of other people do. But that's okay. Please continue.
Yeah, I just like it wasn't my favorite part about their culture. Let's just say that.
Well, yeah, but when they're reading off like the list of people who have been left behind, a lot of the cases that they read off were not just this person got injured, so we said the hell with them. It was people who were like had been killed or presumed dead, like
Poppy's
along the
way.
Like Poppy's whole family.
But they died in a landslide.
Right.
They didn't get left behind. They died.
They died, yeah. But that's what you expect. That's what I was led to expect. They're going. Oh, they were left behind. They didn't. Something bad happened to them on the journey. They were they're left behind, is meaning they died.
There's a certain
But what is this whole thing about? Oh, you did this, so now you're decaravan. We're not going to hang out with you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, they're not an ideal society.
Right. That was just a big, kind of a big left turn for me on that. And I'm like, oh, come on now. She's just a kid. I thought you guys were like helping. Nobody's left behind. Everybody's fed. Nobody's left behind. That means this guy's got a bum foot. Somebody needs to be helping him. That's what that means to me.
Yeah, but it's also and I agree, but if you are fully nomadic or semi-nomadic the way they are, and they obviously have a culture that values them staying hidden, so they don't want to sit in one place too long.
The little hobbit holes.
So it's brutal, and but it's very, what's the word I'm looking for?
I mean, I understand it culturally. I do understand it culturally.
Right.
And I'm like, where are these people going? Is it in that book?
That
You know?
doesn't mean that it's not my favorite thing about their culture either, at least from like a happy, friendly standpoint. But at the same time, as somebody who really appreciates interesting world building, a culture that like feels the necessity to continually move in order to maintain the security, the safety and security of their society.
Yeah.
I can see them being like, if you can't keep up, I'm sorry, you are gonna get left behind, because if we don't, our entire society is left at risk. Now, whether or not that is true, if they truly are at risk, but they believe they are. So I believe that they think it's a necessary thing.
And an interesting point is that even when like the hobbits do eventually settle into the Shire, like the only reason that they're actually safe for like the whole of the Third Age is because they're being guarded by the Dunedain.
Mm-hmm.
And like if not for that, they would have been toast, you know. So I think there actually is some merit to the idea that they need to keep moving to remain safe.
Well, you do see a lot of proto Hobbit culture in them,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, okay, once the journey, the caravan or whatever is finally done, we ain't going anywhere, you know, ever. You know, home is home, and we don't want to pick it up and move it ever again. So, but staying, abiding by the rules, staying within the prescribed tenets of, you know, this very strict, I guess, really society. Yeah, I can see like there's some of the hallmarks of like no strange things going on here ever. No. So
Just wanted to say hi to Voice of Geekdom in the chat. Hi, Dan.
hi,
Who
Dan.
Oh, I thought you were saying hi to the new arrival over on Nessie's stream.
Oh, the cat.
Oh no, I missed the cat. Sorry, I was too busy
It was,
reading the
it was
chat.
just a tail. It
But
was just
hi, Dan, resident like Tolkien geek. He's got some great stuff over there. You guys know Dan.
Oh, y'all know Dan.
You know Voice of Geekdom, and if you don't, well, you're welcome. Go watch stuff on Dan's channel.
Yeah. You want to hear about Tolkien stuff? Watch the Tolkien Geek.
Which and again, I just have to say, like the Harfoots are fantastic, but especially Markella Kavanaugh as Nori and Megan Richards as Poppy. The two of them are just this wonderful team that I adore. And again, bringing up the soundtrack, I'm waiting for the episode where Poppy sings, because there's a track on the album which is her singing a song, and it's so absolutely beautiful. So I'm wondering what the context for that in the show is. So we'll see at some point. But no, I love them, and I love Nori's story with, you know, looking after the stranger and that relationship, which is why I hope it doesn't turn out that he's some kind of malevolent force. But then I think, like, I don't think so, because this is Tolkien. It's not Game of Thrones. So I feel like her wanting to do good by this being is going to, like, I feel like there needs to be some positivity that comes out of that. I'm not expecting the red wedding event.
No,
Right.
honestly, I feel like it just you know, rule him out as Sauron, because, you know, it totally just goes against what we know about him. Like, he would never even, why would he even think that these people would be of any use to him?
Well,
You know,
and some people have
the elves.
Well,
you know?
some people have proposed that when he came down, he loses his memory, and I'm like, even if that did happen, which is kind of contrived, even if that did happen, like, Sauron, just like his master, Morgoth, they're innately evil
Yeah.
beings.
Yeah.
They're like, even if they didn't, even if he lost his memory,
supernatural beings, and I doubt they're gonna take fall and lose their memory of who and what they are. Like immediately, they no.
I don't know. I could see a Maiar having.
yeah, Maiar, like maybe, but I just don't think Sauron would lose his essence. Like he would not, just because he didn't remember some things, be predisposed to being nice to these people. I feel like that evil side of him would still come out. But like when Gandalf first returns as Gandalf the White, he's a little out of it. And it takes some time for him to come back.
He like completely disincarnated though. They had to like put a new skin suit on him, right?
Okay, but Meteor Guy's no different.
Maybe. I still think if that were him, I don't think the first word and association that he would learn would be like friend. That's a concept that I think is just would be foreign to him.
Okay, and now we're going back to theorizing about the stranger.
Yeah,
again.
sorry.
Okay.
Right there.
I know Kartik said this as a joke that the last episode should be a musical, but like, if you want to get technical, the whole thing is a musical. Like, the world exists because of the song of Eru Iluvatar. The world is the song.
And I love what they've done with the opening credits, with having like the vibration of sound, like kind of that visualized, because I think like that's kind of paying homage to the music of the Ainur. We were never going to cover everything, but I want to make sure that we we haven't really talked about oh god, sorry, I got my cast list up here. I'm just trying to keep Elendil, who I think is being portrayed wonderfully by Lloyd Owen. He's definitely got like Aragorn vibes.
Oh, it's the hair. He's got the good hair. He's got that great hair. It just looks so.
He's Isildur's father.
Isildur's father.
Oh, okay. All right, I got you.
Promotion.
Like, one of my favorite moments, I think it was from this last episode, is when Muriel says, and I suppose Elendil here is a king of whatever he says, and then he's like, just a petty lord, actually, and trying to make the little, and she just looks at him like he looks really embarrassed and confused. But it's great. Because one thing I don't see Elendil being good at is jokes.
I mean, maybe when he's off duty.
So Kate and Dan are both like saying that a channel called Nerd of the Rings interviewed Lloyd Owen, and they are both highly recommending it. So Kate, Dan, thank you.
Kate, Dan, Kate.
And then Kartik says they have some good shampoo in Numenor. Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Like, the hairdressers are on point in Numenor.
And it's funny because I remember last week I said that I hadn't been as in love with the third episode as I was on the first two episodes. I've kind of changed my tune on that because especially after episode 4, which I loved, I think it's because episode 3 in a lot of ways it's almost like a second pilot episode, because you're getting introduced to a lot of new characters and settings for the first time.
For the Numenorians,
so I think that's kind of what put me off initially, but haven't gone back to rewatch it. just think it's absolutely splendid, and I love the way they've developed those characters over such a short amount of time already, because I'm invested in like in Elendil and Isildur and the family dynamic with them, and Isildur's sister, and then what's going on with Anarion over on the west
on the west
of Numenor and Lake. Are we going to get to see the west side of Numenor this season, or are they going to put that off until?
Didn't they ride there on horses, grinning like an idiot?
I don't think they went that far.
Okay, because they did talk about it, like him being from the west, and they went to like the library was in the place he was from.
Maybe so then.
Or is it farther west that you're talking about?
Well, I'm not sure. I have to go back and rewatch. But in any case, we did not see like the people of the western side who are evidently
right. I want to see the faithful.
Right. We did see like maybe just a library, basically.
Yeah.
And you want to see things like Tarfinian and Falcastodon, and I'm making shit up now, clearly, but I had you going for just a second when you couldn't figure out what I was talking about, didn't I? Admit it.
Yeah, as much as I love like the Silmarillion and all the stuff like names of Second Age Numenor stuff is not my forte.
Yeah.
One of the things that I said I was looking forward to this show was it giving identity to names like Tarmiriel and what's and Farazan and stuff. These are like they throw so many names like that at you in the small section of the Silmarillion that has to do with the Second Age. It's like a list of names, and they're so different from the names in in like the Lord of the Rings and all that. I remember when I was reading that part of the Silmarillion, I was like, I cannot keep all these people straight, and so it's great to like actually put some faces to some names with this show.
Yeah. I agree. Like, real talk, some of the names I have figured out. Arondir, Nori, Poppy, Theo, Bronwyn. Got Bronwyn right now. A lot of them I got. But for a lot of them, it's like, Beard Guy.
Beard Guy.
The guy with the armor and the blue shirt. Isildur's dad. Yeah, that guy. Like, there's still a little bit of that going on for me. But it is doing a really good job of making me like of making them all distinct. Even if he is Beard Guy, like, I know who that is. And his name is what again? Farazan.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, Farazan. Yeah. You just know he's going to be creeping on Muriel here soon.
And it's weird because I kind of like that they're making him like kind of
likable.
Like I mean, not completely. You can see that he's trying to make himself look good at certain turns, but he's not like automatically a complete asshole or anything.
Right.
And like when she says, I'm going to escort the elf back personally, and we're going to, fight for our brethren in the Southlands, he immediately is like, basically like, the Queen Regent has given her orders. We set sail, whenever it's like he's carrying out.
He's not going. He's like, good job. You should go do that. Go do this. Go fight Sauron. You crazy chick. You take some people with you.
Well, I actually wonder if they'll change that, because I could be wrong, but I think he does go in the Legendarian. But also Muriel is
Yeah.
like a different kind of character in the Legendarium, whereas they
It's
they made her a much stronger character in this, so they could be just switching them out.
Yeah, they're just playing with it. So, but the names are there. The little touchstones are there. So
Some
go grab Sauron from the Southlands. They deserve a
So,
break.
real talk, y'all, we got about 15 minutes left in the stream. If there is anything you want to make sure that you get,
God, there is so much, but I'm gonna boil it down.
we knew. Look, we'll be back in like a month to do part 2 of this once the show is over.
Yeah.
So,
I do want to mention another actor. His name is Charles Edwards, who plays Celebrimbor, who I think is fantastic. It's a small role so far, but like if you know if you know the Legendarium, you know he plays a pretty big role in things, and I like that first scene we get with him and Elrond, where he's talking about how he wants to create something very powerful, and and true creation requires great sacrifice, and it's like, oh, that's
stop it.
Yeah.
Stop saying the thing. You just want to go to say, buddy, no.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I'm interested to see, like, that's why some people have theorized that Sauron is actually already in Eregion, because the fact that Celebrimbor has a deadline for when he wants to, finish his project. It's like, what's the rush?
Yeah, what's the rush, dude?
Especially for an elf. Like, an elf never gets in a hurry about anything.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so
it has to do with some type of, celestial thing. It comes around only once every so often. Maybe, but that hasn't been mentioned. We don't know why he's in such a hurry.
Speaking of Celebrimbor and that scene between him and Elrond, God, I loved that we saw Feanor's hammer and had that mentioned, and like again, it's so steeped in the history of the First Age and all this of like, I don't think there's any way for a Tolkien geek to not like totally freak out at mentions like that. It was just so much fun. Okay, so I'm not talking out of my ass.
He's already there. We just haven't met him yet.
Well, not any more than usual, anyway.
Exactly.
We'll just see him as some industrious, person on the job site.
But yeah, I so again, like, just starting to wrap up here. Not only does the show feel like Middle Earth to me, but it feels like the Middle Earth of, even though I know they're not able to base stuff directly from the Silmarillion, but it feels like, the Middle Earth of the Silmarillion and all that, because we're getting to see and hear about things that we've never gotten to see on screen for a Middle Earth adaptation before, and that's just so much fun for me, because there was a time when we didn't think we'd get anything like this.
Yep, I agree. Also, hi Reds, nice to see you, buddy. And I absolutely agree with your sentiment.
Did you think
Numenor really did impress me? I mean, it's beautiful all around this show, but Numenor really is like my favorite location they've taken us to so far.
Yeah, it is, and it's so fleeting now. We know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll even clap at that. It's a Marvel
funny. It's
reference, but it's great.
Yeah. The piece of mithril, that Elrond has in his possession now. You think that's what they make the rings out of, the elven rings? You think they use that mithril? Because maybe. Because it's so special. Pure. It's pure where gold is not pure, but the elven rings remain pure, and by using, I don't know. I think they use it. That's just me. It's a little thing.
I don't know. I just like when Durin gave Elrond that piece of mithril, like you know, I was like, okay, your intention is good there, and you know, bravo, but that's gonna come back to bite you in the ass. Maybe just hold on to that.
So,
So
I'm like, for me, I just need the mithril to mean something. It needs to be more than just, oh, we've got mithril in this show now. We we name dropped the thing. You guys like that, right? Like, don't do me like that. Make it
well,
mean
you
something.
know, they
And,
dug
and
too deep. They dug too deep. Were they searching for mithril? They dug too deep.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's got like it's of supreme
They know it's
importance
dangerous.
to
to
like
this story, I want it to be important to this story. That's all I'm saying. And Dan points out that Galadriel's ring Ninya is made of
Okay.
mithril, and like, okay, that could be
it'll be of importance to this story when the dwarves disturb, you know, too deep and awaken a Balrog. I think that'll have
Is that going to
immense
happen
importance.
in this show though?
It may.
It might.
Because they already said they're compressing events time wise,
Right.
because otherwise, like we'd be. You think that there's
You're
time
waiting
jumps
forever.
in House of the Dragon? You ain't seen nothing yet. So, like, I think it's entirely possible that we'll see, you know, Durin's
battle.
Bane
Yeah.
and
I
all
mean,
that happen.
that's a good reason why that. I mean, they've shown how dangerous it is to go mining for this stuff. You
Yeah.
know that there's inherent danger in it. So, you know, if Durin wants more of this because he's, you know, creating these wonderful things, you know, he and Celebrimbor get together, they're creating these wonderful things. They dug too deep.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
I
Like I
think
said, I just need it to mean something. I don't even know what I need it to mean. Just something, anything, rather than just look. Huh? Remember the thing?
Well, no, and
But I
like
actually have faith that
they
will.
show in the preview for like that Celebrimbor takes an interest in it. So like, and if it does like factor into the creation of the Elven rings, then yeah, it's that I think
That's
there's
good enough for me.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
this show has not done this so far, so I don't feel like they're going to do it now. But sometimes you get certain established IPs that just throw things in for that nostalgia. So, you can say lightsaber or whatever. Star Wars does this sometimes. Star Trek does this sometimes. I just don't want them to be like, hey, look, it's mithril.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what they'll do. I just
No,
hope,
I don't think so
I also
either.
hope that it's not, because I would be very disappointed if they did. I really like the idea of lining the hulls of ships with mithril and just like having invincible navy. I love this idea. Red, that's a great plan. We should do that. Okay, last 5 minutes. So let's wrap up with what are you looking what storyline are you most looking forward to continuing on in the next 4 episodes?
There's so many good ones.
I'm gonna go with. I'll start then, since nobody's jumping out. I think for me, the one I'm most looking forward to is the men who are trying, like the Adar orc men of the. Are they from the east or the south?
The South.
Yeah,
The South.
yeah, like that storyline, so
Less
completely
bad.
separated from all the other stuff we kind of even know about. Like the Numenor doesn't touch that. We kn- the elf stuff. Like the only elf we really have is Arondir there now.
Yeah, his
So
two bros.
that's what I'm looking forward to. Kartik says Theo becoming the Witch King. I mean, maybe. I think Halbrand is maybe going to be the Witch King. But it's possible it could be Theo. Why not?
Nessie?
Nessie, you got one?
Yeah, I think like I want to see I want to see more in Khazad-dûm. I want to see more
Okay.
from the dwarves of that storyline and the friendship that's being expanded upon, and you know Celebrimbor and Durin they've got to meet up, dude. They've got to
Mm-hmm.
get together on these things. We got to forge some rings. So maybe a little bit more from other elves. You know,
Okay.
maybe a little bit more like what's going on in London. Um, you know, maybe some of that.
Okay. That'd be cool too. How
Hmm.
about you, John?
I'm gonna go and say I'm actually most looking forward to getting back to the Harfoot storyline and seeing what happens with the stranger. And also, I'm not completely positive whether um, these guys will tie into that storyline or another one, but I kind of part of it's based on my listening of the soundtrack. I've got a hunch that it will intersect with the stranger and the Harfoots is these characters of and I could be wrong. Again, a lot of this is theorizing based off of the soundtrack, but there's a track called The Mystics. And I have a hunch that
You say
these
the
are the
Mystics,
yeah, that
as
these are
in
the
like the Skeksis reflection. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you
but
correctly.
I
But yeah.
have a hunch that these characters are the ones that we've seen in various previews who are in the white robes
Mm-hmm.
and who at one point I think people were theorizing that one of them was Sauron, which is I've never thought was the case. But I wonder if they come like again, this would hint towards the stranger being some kind of malevolent force, but if they come looking for the stranger, or
Mm-hmm.
or is something, or maybe I'm completely off base and they're part of a different storyline, but this is where my mind has gone, like trying to fit these pieces together. So I'm very interested in that storyline, mostly just because I love the bond that's being forged between the stranger and Nori.
Mm-hmm. It's very
So
cute
It
in
is
a
very
really weird, like trying to help a homeless guy kind of way. Like it's kind of a sweet story.
yeah,
Yep.
and they're back next week, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, I mean, I said it at the top. Like I love Nori. She's probably my favorite character in the show. But I think like I feel like at least for me, the Harfoots might be the weakest part of the story for me personally. Not that it's bad, just the weakest part. And I say that maybe and I only realized it this week because I think the show keeps getting better and better and better. And I thought episode 4 was almost like a masterpiece. Not that's a little bit effusive, but like I thought it was the best one so far. And then I went, there's not a Harfoot to be found in here, and it felt like it never slowed down.
But
So
that's funny because I was like, I love this episode. I only wish the Harfoots were in it.
right.
So
I mean, it is what
it,
it is.
it's once again a sign that like even though we like a lot of the same things, Stephen, but occasionally we do disagree
Mm-hmm.
on the finer points.
Yeah.
And for me, like I've been really surprised that a lot of what I've loved about the show is actually some of the stuff that was invented for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And that is surprising, but I'm happy about that.
Yeah, good is good is good.
Yeah.
Whether it's from Tolkien's brain or somebody interpreting Tolkien's brain many years later. Good.
And which, by the way, I do want to finish off by saying I'm actually really pleased with the writing overall because I think they've done a great job of capturing Tolkien with very little to work from.
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the we won't we're coming full circle because I'm about to mention the Hobbit films again. Like one of my gripes with those movies was always the stuff that wasn't from Tolkien. I always felt the writing was a bit weak in those areas, and it didn't feel like something that came from Tolkien. Whereas with this show, I think they're doing a great job of making it feel like it has the essence of his stories, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Right. So I think that's a good place as any to put a button on this and call it an evening. I've got to pee. So,
Wow.
I mean, it is what it is. I've been sitting here drinking coffee for 2 hours.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so for everyone who was here with us live, thank you so much. Several of you were here all the way through start to finish. And I thank you for that. We do this because people show up to talk about it. So yeah, next week we're not sure what's going on. I'm either having a brand new series with a special guest, or John and I are just picking some random movie. I won't know until like a day or two from now. But if I can get my guest to commit, we will be doing some like D&D RPG conversation type stuff. So tune in for that. And yeah, that's terrifying, by the way. That's awful.
And I mean, there aren't actually any bodily fluids at all in Middle Earth, are there? Because I've never seen any evidence.
Right, I've never seen a hobbit taking a dump. So anyway, so come back next week where we will either talk about some random movie, or I will talk with my guest about some D&D tabletop RPG stuff.
I want to bring this really full circle and just say the thing that I'm really looking forward to next on this show is Ent Boob Armor.
Ent Boob Armor.
Okay.
Hashtag.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch the early part for wood boobs discussion. All right, that's the real place to end it. So thanks everyone for being here. Hit that like and subscribe. Tell your friends about this nerdy little channel where we have random, frequently derailing conversations about nerdy stuff. And we will see you all next week. But until then, you know what it is. Peace and be excellent to each other.